Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Alright, so this scene with Tracy and Lois, and eventually Ned, right? And we'll start off with Lois for a minute. You know, she's in Atlantic City, she's playing blackjack, I think, and she's losing, right? Hair looks like a mess, she's been drinking like there was no tomorrow. Surprised they didn't cut her off. And Lois comes in. Now, you find out later on, Lois is sent by Ned to sit there and keep track of her and everything like that. And Lois, here's the thing. Lois' heart is in the right place. She gives her some advice. She tells her to go to the funeral, and this, that, and the third. You want to know the thing that a lot of people don't like? And this is just on a regular daily basis. Having somebody psychoanalyze you. Again, I get it. She is, her heart's in the right place. But nobody likes to be psychoanalyzed on a good day. Her telling her that she needs to go to the funeral, closure, this, that, and the third, and Ned doing the same thing. And then finally, he was like, you, if this is how you want to grieve, you don't want to go to the funeral, that's fine. We can sit there and play blackjack all night. And I think the problem, well, one of the problems was telling somebody how to grieve. For show purposes, yeah, we got to get her there. We got to have her grieve and speak and get closure and da 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 da. But since, soap operas are based off of reality to some extent, it's one of those things where it's like you got to let them grieve how they want to grieve. You may not agree with how they're grieving, not going to the funeral, whatever, but it's not up to you. And I think that's part of the thing that was a bit frustrating watching. For a whole hour, you had two people sitting there telling this woman the proper way and how to grieve. In the beginning, when Lois was talking to Brooklyn and she was trying to give her some cotton candy, and she was being all standoffish, it annoyed me, right? Towards the end, when Lois told that story about some woman named Catherine being poisoned and how the family came together, and I think Lila was actually in on this whole plotting to try to protect the family, and it turned out it was the butler, whatever. And she softened up and ate some cotton candy and stuff like that. The reason why it annoyed me in the beginning, and if you've been watching my channel and watch my reviews, I've been sitting there saying the same thing. For a woman that's sitting there trying to beg to get her son to forgive her, you have a shitty way of treating your own mother. The woman who gave you life, the woman who cleaned up your mess when you decided that it was a good idea to sit there and spread your legs before you were ready to sit and have a baby, and then you didn't like how she cleaned up your mess, and you've been acting standoffish, but yet you want your son forgiveness. I'm sorry. I had no sympathy or no patience for her beginning attitude. I just simply didn't. So I guess it was nice to sit there and see her not be such. I really despise this word, so I'm not going to say it, but y'all know what I'm saying. Um. Oh, and of course, Ned told the story that Brooklyn already knows about, them having an affair. And despite how many times that Brooklyn was like, I don't want to know, I don't want to know the details, he just kept yammering it away regardless. Um. Now, Curtis came back inside, and Trina was like, okay, this has something to do with Jordan. And Curtis is like, hey, listen, this doesn't have anything to do with her. We had cracks in the marriage before her, right? And then at some point, I think she leaves or somebody leaves or something, and Trina goes to Jordan. And in the beginning, I was like, girl, you need to stay in your lane. I was like, I know what you're trying to do, but you need to stay in your lane. I thought she was going to come in there and be like, you need to stop seeing my dad or da da da. I thought she was going to come in with that, and she was like, no, 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 let's not play that game. But long story short, all she was doing was, hell, she was like, hey, listen, I'm not trying to keep those two together. I'm trying to keep them from being out of prison. Because apparently the story is, and this is what Curtis said to Marshall or Hat Daddy. I forgot his name. I've been calling him Hat Daddy so long. I actually forgot what this man's name was. Was that if they split up and then they find out the reason why they split up is because of Drew, they're gonna sit there and be suspects. And that's what she pretty much says. Now, what she doesn't understand and what she doesn't know is that Portia is also, cheating on Curtis and, bumping and grinding with Isaiah. So I hope she has that same energy when it comes towards Portia. Um, and Portia ran into Jordan and pretty much was like, my marriage is over. And she apologized for coming at her sideways. I don't exactly remember what she said, but it wasn't what I expected. Because at first Jordan was like, listen, I want no parts of y'all. I don't want to be involved or in the middle of this. And part of me was like, Portia, I mean, Jordan, you've been sitting there spending a hell of a lot of time with Curtis. And even if they're contemplating on getting back together with him, so don't sit there and try to act like you don't want to borrow any problems when you've been borrowing problems for a hot minute. We're not going to act like you're innocent in this. And when Had Daddy and Curtis was there talking about the end of his marriage, he was like, listen, this was a lot. This was Drew was a factor. I'm like, so we just going to sit there and act like you weren't a factor either? I mean, hell, you even sat there and admitted that you've been so hypercritical of Portia to the point where you made her feel like she couldn't come to you. Now, we're not going to act like she didn't lie and keep the truth from you, but he understood that he made it difficult for her to even be honest. This is on both of them. But it is also on him spending an abnormal amount of time with Jordan. I know people are going to sit there and say, but they share family and they share this and they share that. Let's be perfectly honest. Okay? If an ex was hanging around Portia, I'm pretty sure Curtis is not like that. So we're not going to sit there and act like what he was doing was okay. There was just times where they spent time together and it was not necessary. We're not going to sit there and act like it was. Um, and I don't mean business and family gatherings. I mean just hanging out and being at the poolside, a little EB, tiny bikini. No, we're not going to do that. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I'm actually going to. Well, I may watch parts of tomorrow's episode, but if they're really going to start with the funeral, I'm not going to review it. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going there. So Nina and Nathan talk for a little bit, and she goes to kiss Anna, and Isaiah sits there and talks about there's a scar on his chest from bullet shot. And Anna comes in there right off rip. He remembers Nina. He remembers Anna. They get him up to speed. He remembers the last thing was being shot by Faison. They tell him about Maxie. They start to tell him about James. And apparently he's been missing 7 years of his life. So he got a lot catching up to do. And meanwhile, James is hanging out with Cody, I think. Felicia is flipping out. I feel like she's taking some of the emotional energy that Maxie would have, in a sense. Um, and she's just worried about James. And there was one point where James was like, you know, when Cody's like, your dad is up, dad's in heaven watching over you and stuff like that. And James is like, is my mom there too? And Cody's like, no, she's still here. Like, she's probably dreaming about you and stuff like that. Felicia's worried. I feel like she's I mean, I guess she's just playing the overprotective grandparent, but I'm like, how about you just play it by ear and see how it goes? Because at some point, Nathan is going to want to sit there and see his son. So I know she wants to sit there and protect James, but like that is also James' father. So I might want to just take a couple of inches back a little bit. But I feel like I'm done. Oh, and then when Portia goes to the hospital and sees Isaiah, she's pretty much like, "Yeah, my mom sat there and said that we couldn't go any further than the bump in the ground, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago." Yeah, I changed my mind about that. I think we should probably see where it goes. And Isaiah's like, "Hey, listen, I'll think about it. But I am not going to sit there and jeopardize my job." And long story short, apparently he must have had some issue doing that before, and he's like, he's not going to get hurt again. So he's like, we're gonna take this slow. We're gonna be on the DL. Nobody can know. And you know, he's like, "Are you sure you're done with your marriage? Like, you are putting yourself in a very, very, very awkward." And I'm like, part of me is like, if you are so worried about your heart and not getting hurt, bro, they're not even divorced yet. And you think they're talking about, well, let's sit there and let me take some time and see where this goes. I was like, no, 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 no. They're not even divorced yet. And you that worried about your heart, maybe you shouldn't be getting involved with somebody who is just because they might have been emotionally checked out of their marriage, she's still wearing her wedding ring. So, like, I want to think about that. At some point, are they going to sit there and start digging up a grave, or are they just going to act like that just don't exist? Because they're like, oh, the bullet shot room and everything like that, and you're really here, you're really here. I'm like, well, who is in that damn casket? I feel like that's going to be a question that I'm not going to get an answer to. All right, I feel like that's about it. I can't think of anything else that winds up happening. If you miss anything, write in the comment section below. We'll be doing a live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll sit there and talk about all the soaps, what they are, and I will see you tonight.